Showtime! It's showtime. I'm live. Good evening, everybody. I'm Caroline Flanagan. For those of you who don't know me, I am the author of Be the First. I'm the host of the Caroline Flanagan podcast and all sorts of other things as well. I'm the creator of the Imposter Speech, which is what I want to talk to you about today. I have been doing a series of podcasts on imposter syndrome, on the imposter speech. And of course, I've created, some of you will already know, I've created a Facebook group called the Imposter Speech, Be the First Facebook group. So all of this hype, all of this talk about the imposter speech, I figured it was time I came on and talked to you about it. So that's the focus of today's session. I'm going to spend a bit of time answering the question, well, what is the imposter speech? So in a nutshell, it is a powerful, practical, portable tool that I created basically to help me with my imposter syndrome. I needed something that gave me some instant courage, something that would help to build my confidence, but not just like in a moment and then would leave me feeling as kind of much like a fraud and insecure as I did before. And every time I came up to the next task, I needed something that would build up my confidence over time so that I was becoming more confident every time I was actually brave enough to take a step. I wanted something more sustainable, transformational. And that's what the imposter speech has been able to do. So it gives me courage in the moment, confidence that builds up over time. And a kind of added bonus that I love about it is that it is something that helps me to showcase my value. Now, that is both showcasing my value to other people, but also crucially showcasing my value to myself. So it's a portable, practical, powerful tool. Why do I call it portable? Because I love the idea of it being something that you can almost like have in your pocket. It's on you all of the time. That's why I know I needed something like a speech that I could always have in my head. If you are anything like me, and in the days when we actually got to go out and leave our house and have our handbags with us and maybe have a different handbag on a different day. If I put something in one handbag, I'd almost inevitably forget to transfer it to another. So I really wanted something that I would never forget. It was always on me when I needed it. So that's why it was a speech, right? Something so brilliant. I knew that I just needed it in my head and it would always be with me. So super portable. Practical, because you do actually do something with it. I'm not just telling you that it's something that you can go out and you think about it and then it all happens magically, you become suddenly more confident. No, you have to be active, proactive with it. That means saying the speech, saying your imposter speech, practicing it in front of the mirror, internalizing it. And then in those moments when you actually need it, bringing it out and saying it out loud. You can do that publicly if you want, but it's something that is very personal, very much for you. And I really encourage you to use it privately, if anything, more than publicly, because that maintains the integrity of what is in the speech. Now, I haven't talked about what's in the speech yet. I'm waiting deliberately to do that. So just bear with me. The other point I want to make, and maybe this will make it even easier to describe to you, is it's a little bit in concept. It's a bit like the elevator pitch, which you may have heard of. Lots of people have heard about the elevator pitch, the elevator speech. You know, it's that kind of 1 minute pitch that you're supposed to be able to pull out on the off chance that you walked into an elevator or a lift, as we say here in the UK, and you found yourself face to face with the CEO of your company or with the managing senior partner, and you've got like 60 seconds to impress them before they get out of the lift. So it's about having that kind of one-liner that you pull out to show everybody how impressive you are. There's a key difference, however. The elevator pitch is all about somebody else. It's all about impressing and saying it to other people and creating something that other people will be, impressed with. The imposter speech is for you. The only person it's meant to impress is yourself. The only person who has to hear it is you. And that's really important because that's what maintains the integrity of what you tell yourself in those moments when you need that boost. When you've created a speech that is as honest and authentic as you just talking to yourself about yourself, without worrying about what anybody else might think and whether they think it's true, it keeps it true to you and it makes it uniquely yours. So it's like an elevator pitch, but it's different in that it's for you, written by you, for you, and it's to kind of impress yourself with who you are as opposed to impressing everybody else. So why would you need an elevator pitch? So I would say, particularly if you suffer from imposter syndrome, but also for anyone, right? If you are someone who suffers from any form of self-doubt, one of the things that we all kind of want, we search for, we look for, the Holy Grail, is confidence, isn't it? It is, we want to be able to feel confident before we do that thing we know we need to do, or we know that is expected of us, or we know that is necessary if we're going to achieve our goals or progress our career, get that promotion, fulfill our potential, all of those things that we want. They are often so daunting, aren't they? Our fear of failure, of getting it wrong, of being exposed if you suffer from imposter syndrome is alive and kicking. And that's why we naturally think, oh, I wish I had the confidence. How can I feel more confident about this? What tips or tricks can you give me to be more confident? And this is the biggest mistake that we make when it comes to trying to move forward, right? It's waiting or hoping to feel confident before we take action. I'm sorry, my friend, it's not going to happen. Confidence doesn't come in order to enable you to take that next step. Confidence is your reward for taking the step. You have to take the step first. You have to take the risk. You have to do the thing, even when you are afraid of failing, even when it's hard. And when you do it, and also you might have to do it a few times, that's when the confidence comes, right? A really classic, simple example, learning to walk, right? You don't wait until, thankfully, when we're kids, nature just takes care of this and creates this urgency and drive in us. But you don't wait until you feel confident about walking before you get up and start walking. You have to just get up and start walking. And only by doing it again and again, and yes, having a few fails, that's only then do you get the confidence to be able to do it. A very simple example that 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds really get and happens naturally. We have to embrace and accept that for ourselves. Now, that might sound like bad news, but actually it's not bad news. What it means is we can let confidence sort of take care of itself. We just need to focus on taking the next step, right? We need to focus on in that moment when we need to walk into our boss's room, metaphorically, or have our Zoom meeting with our boss and ask for the promotion or the pay rise, or think of applying for a job that might feel like a bit of a stretch. All you actually need in that moment is courage, don't you? You just need to be able to have the guts to take that step and take a risk. And that's why you need your imposter speech, right? You just need something to be able to tell yourself in that moment to get you to take that step. Super, super important. So courage first, right? And the confidence comes later. But that confidence, again, it needs to have a foundation. It needs to be grounded in something. And that's why the speech is more than just the kind of, you can do it. You've got this. You've had, you wouldn't be here unless you had earned your right to be here. And all those other things I hear people kind of using or saying as a way to help them with their imposter syndrome. It's not enough to just kind of say, oh, it's okay, you can do it. There needs to be real substance behind that courage. And that courage has to come from what you know about yourself and about who you are. And I'm going to come on to that in a minute. But the last thing I want to say about why you need an imposter speech is about also the value piece. It's perhaps the most important, the bit where you get to actually start to see yourself differently. You start to see and understand properly what your value is and be able to also project that to other people. All of that, if we can get all of that to happen, that's the kind of result that is going to completely transform who we are and how we're showing up in the world going forward and in the long run. So I see I've got some lovely watchers. So a quick shout out to you. Thank you so much. I might even just pause there and read out a comment from Shazni. Nice to see you. She says, I remember you teaching me to create mine. My life has changed exponentially since using it and believing the words that I crafted. Thank you. Wow, Shazni, thank you so much. It's lovely to have you on live, and what you wrote is amazing. It has just sent shivers down my spine. I'm so excited to share that with everybody. I feel as excited about that as Shazni's just shown, her talking about how it really is that transformational. I think when I worked with Shazni actually on this, we in its first iteration, it was the gladiator speech, and it's like evolved since then. Very much the same principles, Shazni, so you will recognize so many of the features. But I am delighted that years later you still remember that experience. It's great validation for those people who are listening and they're thinking, what? Imposter speech? What is that? So how does it work? The imposter speech, way I sum it up is that it gets you to show up from where you truly are, right? And who you really are. And again, I'm going to point to a really common mistake. It's that in that moment where you want the confidence, you're looking for the courage, you are so often focused on what you're not, on the fact that everybody else is perhaps more qualified or is better at something than you, and how you're inadequate in some way or less than in some way. And this is particularly if you suffer from imposter syndrome, you'll recognize that feeling. So we're all caught up in the moment when we need to bring our best selves, like our courageous selves, our most competent, most experienced. What do? We think about what we're not. And what the imposter speech is designed to do is to get you out of that state of what is effectively just a fear bubble, right? A bit of panic that you're experiencing in that moment. The speech is like saying, right, okay, the fear's there. All right, we're feeling the fear, but now let's look at who we really are. Let's remember, right, all of the things that we have, not just all the things that we've achieved in terms of successes, although that's very important. Our achievements are really important, right? But also let's remember why we're here. What are the values and the decisions that's actually brought me to this point, to this opportunity? Why am I here? I love, as a way of describing this, when I went to the body camp in Mallorca in August, I managed to get away in that small window when we were free. And the body camp is this amazing fitness camp in Mallorca. They were brilliant. There was a guy there called Anthony, the main trainer there, the main PT guy. And it just killed me. One of the mantras that in this body camp was, what was it? You chose this, right? So he would yell out as we were doing, 500 burpees. I wish I was joking. So many burpees. And he would shout, you chose this. And we were kind of almost indoctrinated that week into shouting out, I chose this. So when it was really hard, when we were really exhausted and there was more to do, instead of what we would normally tell ourselves, which is, oh, why am I here? Why am I putting myself through this? Instead of that, it was like, I chose this. And that's one of the things that imposter syndrome does. It reminds you that you're here, where you are, facing whatever challenge you're facing for a reason, right? A decision you made in the past, a value that you are honoring. It might be the desire to achieve more in your career. It might be a desire to get recognition for something. It might be a desire to help other people, right? Whatever your values are, have driven you to this point. You're here for a reason. And when we're in that bubble of fear, it's really helpful to be reminded of that. And that's something that the imposter speech does, which is amazing. So it helps you show up from where you are. The achievements, yes. The values I've just said, the reason why you're there. But crucially, it also reminds you of your failures. And I think, and maybe Shazni will agree, that part of the speech where you're looking at your journey to where you are now, not the glossy bits, the victories, but the really hard bits, the bit where you wanted to give up and you didn't, the bits where you failed and you had to get back up again, the bits where, quite simply, maybe you just couldn't even face the day but somehow you manage to. There is so much value and power in your backstory around how you got to where you are. There's so much power. I get a bit excited about this, right? I can feel the energy just talking about past experiences, what they show us in terms of what we're capable of, what we can cope with, what we will be able to manage and support our way through. We need to be able to draw on those experiences to get us through whatever is in front of us, right? So when you look at the comparison between showing up as, oh, well, I'm not enough and that person's more than me, and being in that headspace, and showing up as someone who's been through it, who's been through X, Y, and Z, and still got up and faced the day, right? And add to that the values that have driven you to where you are and are driving you to succeed, the achievements that you have accumulated over time. Suddenly you're starting to create this picture of yourself that isn't, oh, small me, play small, I'm not good enough. Suddenly it's like, wow, this is who I am. This is the entirety of who I am. I am so much more than I'm allowing myself to be. And that's not it. There's another piece, which is around not just your goals, but a wider purpose. And that's something that's part of the process of creating your speech. You'd be encouraged to do. It's like, well, what's the big picture? Why? Yeah, there might be a goal to be promoted to the next level, right? Might be a goal to grow your business to a certain size, get a certain revenue, but what's the wider purpose? And that's the bit where it's no longer about you, where it's about actually the kind of results you can create in the world, the kind of lives you can change, the kind of impact you can have. And again, when you take it to that level and it stops being about you, wow, suddenly the fear you're experiencing in that moment, right? The step you need to take is like, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But wow, look at the bigger picture. This is not about me. All of that comes from having an imposter speech. You nail your imposter speech and it is unique to you. The process of creating it is a step-by-step process, but when you've created it, the content of it is completely unique. It is something that will evolve with you. When you have that in any situation, your fear will be there. We're not talking about getting to a world in which fear doesn't exist, discomfort doesn't exist, and everything's easy and we're all confident. That world, well, if it exists for someday, I'd love to hear about it, but I don't know anyone who lives in that world. The world that we all live in, that's the real world, is one where we are going to be facing challenges. We're going to be growing, right? Evolving all the time and having the opportunity to progress, but there's always fear involved. I always say life is an arena. You've heard me talk about that, right? Exactly. The imposter speech is what you take into the arena. And that's the kind of throwback to the gladiator speech, which it was at the beginning. I don't want to talk about gladiator speech too much. I might confuse you. But in its first iteration, I always talked about and felt about like I was in an arena and there were challenges and I somehow needed something to get me in the right state to be able to cope with those challenges, to overcome them so that I could achieve my goal. So lastly, what has all this, to tie it all up then, and then I will just check my comments again and see what's come in. To tie it all up, what's the connection then between the imposter speech and imposter syndrome? I've kind of touched on it, haven't I? I've talked about how with imposter syndrome, you're showing up as what you're not. Imposter speech is helping you show up as who you are, the full extent and the power of who you are, which is amazing. But to connect it with what I've said in the past recently about imposter syndrome, I've talked about how imposter syndrome is not a problem that you need to fix. I'm really passionate and determined to spread this message and change the way we're viewing imposter syndrome as something that needs to be got rid of before we can go on and achieve our best, right? It is a puzzle that you need to solve, right? And the puzzle is simply, who am I? Yeah. It's not a who am I to do this? It's literally, who am I? Who are you? And the way you solve your imposter syndrome, you solve that puzzle, is you answer the question, who am I? Yeah. You need the answer to that question in order to feel to get the power to be able to do what you want to do, to be able to, well, I say solve your imposter syndrome so that it becomes an engine then, right? It's converted to energy that then drives you forward. How do you answer the question, who am I? It's exactly what the imposter speech is designed to do. It is your answer to who you are. Hopefully, I've managed to convey some of the excitement that I feel about the imposter speech, and really, honestly, what a game changer this speech is going to be for so many of you, for those of you who really are being held back by this self-doubt and feeling that you're a fraud or you're not good enough. I think it's amazing. I've got Shazne who's been sending me some wonderful comments. I'm just going to have a look, Shazne, what you've written. So you've said I totally agree. For those of you who've just joined, so Shazne's written a couple of comments here saying she remembered me teaching her imposter speech many years ago. I think it was in 2015. So quite a long time, Shazne. And she says, my life has changed exponentially since using it and believing the words that I crafted. Thank you. Incredible. And then she says, I totally agree. It's empowering to acknowledge your backstory, honoring it, and today standing here as a person who has overcome. Oh my God, that is amazing. I don't want to say anything else on top of that because Shazne, you have said it all. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you for listening, for watching, everybody. I'm Caroline Flanagan, host of the Caroline Flanagan podcast, which, by the way, I'm running a series of episodes on the imposter speech on the podcast. So you'll find more slightly longer episodes on these different elements of the speech. If you want to go and tune in, and do subscribe to that, I think you'll find it really helpful if something you've heard today has sparked your interest. So I'm a host of the Caroline Flanagan podcast. I'm the author of Be the First, the book, and I'm the creator of the imposter speech. I can't wait to share more with you. I'll be back live next Monday at 6:15, and I'll be talking you through the first step of the imposter speech. Can't wait. Have a wonderful evening. Bye for now.